Six Nations is back, and it's pretty much the best tournament in the world. I mean, the World Cup comes about once every 4 years, the same with Lions Tours, but there's no single annual tournament quite like the Six Nations. You can keep the rugby in the Southern Hemisphere, don't care about the Rugby Championship. It's all about Six Nations time, and that's what we're all going to be glued to for the next 2 months.
Well, Monday of this week was supposedly Blue Monday, the day that the psychologists say everyone must feel the downness at any point in the year. Well, they can't be rugby fans because this is the most exciting time of the year, especially in a World Cup year.
February, what else are you going to do in February, frankly?
I mean, the Rugby Championship's a great competition, but how many South Africans go to New Zealand? How many Argentinians go to Australia? A handful. How many Welshmen and women are going up to Scotland for the game at Murrayfield? How many Englishmen and women are heading across the Irish Sea for the first weekend? There is nothing like the Six Nations.
I think we probably say it every year when we speak, but it could easily be the best championship there's been.
Good competition this year as well, so I think plenty to look forward to.
Who's going to win the 2019 championship?
I think lots of people are going to say Ireland, but I'm going to put a punt on Wales. I think I cover Wales a fair amount, and they've won 9 in a row. If they win 2 more, it's the most wins consecutively in their history, 11. So France first, then Italy, then England. Scotland away is a tough one, and then back in Cardiff for Ireland. So they might not win a slam, but I think they might win it.
I think it'll come down to the winner of the Ireland-Wales game at the end in Cardiff. I think if pushed, just about Ireland.
I think you could probably perm any 5 from the 6. I would probably boil it down to Wales, Ireland or England, and I like Wales' chances. A lot of focus on Ireland, England, but I think Warren Gatland is right that if Wales win in Paris on the opening weekend, on the Friday, and that is a big if, of course, but if they do that, the fixtures fall very nicely for them. A couple of away games, and then they have England and Ireland at home. Wales are 1-9 on the spin, they'll be confident. No one's talking about them, but they're world ranked 3, so watch them.
It's hard to look beyond Ireland because of their pedigree. They're on a roll, they know how to operate so well as a team. They do have a few injury worries. I think England look really strong compared to this time last year. They've got the firepower back in their pack, the ball carrying, all the issues that England had last year, they don't have this time around. They should be able to get over the gain line. They've got an exciting number 7 and some power in the back line. I'm going through every team here. Wales just coming up on the rails, really. I like the look of them. It's going to come down to a couple of key fixtures, but I'd say Ireland. I'm not sticking my neck on the line. That it's going to be hard to see them beaten.
The winner of Ireland against England on the first weekend, I think, will go on and win the tournament. I think getting that scalp for either side will give such a huge amount of momentum. So I think that the team that wins in Dublin will win it, and I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say that England are going to nick it in Dublin. Not quite sure why, just got a little bit of a feeling that England might be coming in there, potentially catching the Irish a tiny bit cold. And then I think with France at home, England could get on a roll. So I'm going to say England, but not with a huge amount of confidence.
With the expectation off them and a bit of pressure off and their big players back, I think England might be ones that will be able to go under the radar. We've said that a lot about Wales. I don't think Wales can do that anymore. I think Warren Gatland's put the expectation on them by saying as much. Eddie Jones looks much more comfortable. I think he quietly knows what his team are about now. He didn't last year. He had too many doubts, too many players missing for injury. They're back. The Vunipolas are back. Owen Farrell looks like he's going to be fit for the season, the championship opener. And I think if England can knock off Ireland in the opening weekend at the Aviva, who's going to stop them? Because teams just don't do that anymore. Ireland don't lose at the Aviva. If England can do that, they're going to have so much momentum going forward. And ending the championship with a Calcutta Cup clash at home, it could be one of the championships to remember for England.
Is there a particular game or particular weekend that stands out as pivotal in this year's championship?
I think the opening weekend. The Six Nations is about momentum. Completely about momentum. If you make a bad start, it's pretty difficult to turn it round. I think if Wales go to Paris and win, I've already laid out the potential for them. Likewise, whoever wins in Dublin, Ireland and England have got a real big kind of leg up into this championship and will fancy their chances after that. So yeah, this is going to be a hell of a weekend, the first one.
That first weekend will set everything up then, and then you fast forward through to the end. Last weekend, Wales against Ireland. It could, has all the makings of a championship decider, but so much hangs on round one.
The final weekend, Wales, Ireland, and England, Scotland, particularly. Hopefully, it's all on for that weekend. A couple of slams on the line, maybe that could be good fun.
To kick off the day, you've got in Rome, Italy v France, that is one of the games that we look to for upsets. We know Italy have it now in the locker to knock France off. If France don't turn up, they will come unstuck in that game. And what a way that could be to kick off the day.
Well, Wales go away 3 times, don't they, to France, Italy and Scotland. But the 2 games in Cardiff, always an unbelievable atmosphere at the Principality, always an unbelievable atmosphere in the streets of Cardiff. Those 2 games, England weekend 3. It's Ireland on the last weekend, isn't it? I think they're both going to be titanic clashes. And I think the tournament could, as well as that first weekend, also be defined by those 2 games in Cardiff, which I'm really looking forward to. Wales against England and Wales Ireland.
It's always good fun beating England. I think if you're Irish, equally, I remember attending Ireland v Scotland years ago as a spectator. One of the great social gatherings in sport, I reckon. So it depends which fixture you're talking about, but they've all got a little bit of resonance.
And what about a couple of players who might be off the grid for a few people to keep an eye on?
There's one guy I'm really interested to see, is Sheriff Traore, the Italian prop who's born in the Gambia. Not the Gambia, in Guinea. So that could be good fun. And then the other guy, Bamber, another prop. He tore it up in the under-26 Nations, a bit of a destructive scrummager. So looking forward to seeing him.
Not a lesser name, because that'd be unfair, but Tom Curry hasn't played in the Six Nations before, and he's a real talent for England. I think an open side. England have been crying out for that kind of a flanker for so many years, and now they have 2. Sam Underhill's injured. I think Tom Curry could be really influential this championship.
I suspect Joey Carberry might get a run at some point for Ireland. I think he's a really good player. It'd be interesting to see who France put on the field. That Bamber, their very young prop, looks a good guy to me. And England, he's not new, but Manu Tuolangi hasn't had a starting role for a long time, so it'd be interesting to see if he comes back at some point.
I've really enjoyed this season watching Jonah Holmes come through at Leicester. As many, I was shocked when I found out he was in the Wales squad. I believe a grandparent is to thank there, but I think he's going to seize his chance. There's lots of doubt over Lee Halfpenny. Warren Gatland's ruled him out of the first 2 games pretty much. We might not even see him at all. He's got a horrible concussion injury. He shouldn't be rushed. We don't know how that's going to come along. That opens the door for Liam Williams, but it also opens the door for Jonah Holmes. And if you want to keep Liam Williams on the wing, which I personally feel he is one of the most lethal finishers in Northern Hemisphere rugby at that position, why not play Jonah Holmes at fullback? Warren has reminded us today that he is an option. He could very well play. And all he needs is 1 outing to really make an impact on this tournament. And who knows where he could be by the end of the tournament, maybe even World Cup time.
Well, this is normally where we pick out a few Frenchmen, don't we? I think last year everyone spoke about Jalibert, the fly half, who unfortunately got injured and hasn't played for France since, which has been really disappointing. But Bamber and Romain Ntamak are 2 guys from the under-20s who big things are expected of. I'm going to go for another Frenchman at scrum half in Antoine De Pont. Really like the look of him for Toulouse this season. Only got, I think, 10 caps or so and only debuted a year or 2 ago. But he's been banging form for Toulouse. And if he gets picked to number 9, I think he might be able to really dictate the French tempo. And also looking forward to this guy's, everyone knows about him now, but seeing whether Jacob Stockdale can repeat last year's heroics. If he does, then we are looking at a player who is going to completely dominate world rugby from the wing point of view.
Joey Carberry of Ireland is having a wonderful time at Munster. Looks to the manner born. He's back up to Johnny Sexton, but he'll come off the bench and he will definitely influence games later on. From an England point of view, maybe Carl Sinclair, young, real bull of a prop. Came of age last year, having shown a lot of potential for the Lions. So probably they would be the 2 I'd look out for.
And what about that character that we know is likely to have a big influence on it? What about the big men of the championship?
Well, I'm going to say a fairly little man in stature, but a big man in reputation and influence in Eddie Jones, because everything Jones does has got some kind of thought behind it, hasn't it? Whether he's throwing out curveballs to us in the media or making slightly left field selections. I think the way he manages the whole tournament this year is going to be fascinating. Last year he was a little bit on the back foot, wasn't he? England were losing matches. He'd come out in that video from when he made a few unwise comments about the Irish and the Welsh was circulating. So he perhaps wasn't the kind of front foot, confident, bullish, mischievous Eddie Jones we've become so accustomed to since 2016. I just wonder if after England's autumn and with some of that firepower back in the squad, that we'll see the old Eddie Jones, if you like, in this championship.
Finn Russell in Paris with the Racing 92 is playing some sublime rugby, and that accuracy and intent that he's playing with there, he'll bring back to Scotland. And we saw what they did last season, that attacking rugby they play. So I'm excited to watch him back on the test stage. Jacob Stockdale, most informed wing in the world at the moment. Everything he touches turns to gold. Can't stop scoring tries, so he'll be one to watch.
Yeah, Conor Murray's going to be pretty key, isn't he? He missed the autumn with an injury. He dictates the whole flow of things and the whole style. Pretty important for Ireland there. And obviously the other guy's blindingly obvious, but Owen Farrell, if he's fit for that opening game, it changes things. And he's a pretty influential guy if he can keep his arms up and in the right places.
I think in terms of influence in championships, you go probably to the better known ones. I know Jacob Stockdale kind of slightly came out of a clear blue sky last year to be top try scorer, but I think you're looking at Johnny Sexton, you're looking at Owen Farrell. In Wales' cases, you'll be looking at the back row and at Dan Bigger to control things.
Stockdale's very much in the here and now, and I think if last year was his breakthrough tournament, this could be the one where he signifies himself as one of the world's best players.
How much bigger is this Six Nations, it being Rugby World Cup year?
I just think it gives it a little extra edge, doesn't it? It gives it just a frisson. You could argue it doesn't need it. It's big enough already, but it's just in the back of everybody's minds, and I think for that reason, yeah, it'll be make it a little bit more interesting.
When you get to the end of the tournament, it'll really set the theme for who's on and who's off with a few months to go. I mean, lots of people will play each other in those warm-up games, but it's not going to be as passionate as sort of all fire and fury then. So I think whoever comes out of this in the best state will look pretty important when it comes to Japan.
It gives it an edge. I think mainly from a spectator's perspective, we'll watch the games through the prism of the World Cup. I don't believe that any of the teams will hold anything back, because you can't in the Six Nations. And if England, if any team with World Cup aspirations, go into that World Cup having finished 4th or 5th, that doesn't help them. They want to be going in on a roll. There'll be individual selection battles that players are fighting for. There is a long time to the World Cup, but it's impossible to view this Six Nations without that in mind. But we have to remember it's a championship on its own right, and every team is out there to win it. There's no point coming 4th or 5th now, because it doesn't help you.
And what about who might be under the biggest pressure this year?
Pressure, you'd probably have to say Ireland, actually, because for once they're front runners, they're being chased, aren't they, which is a position they haven't always been in before. So yeah, probably Ireland.
Well, England are always under pressure. England finished 5th last year, which was horrendous. Worst for 35 years. I mean, clearly they're under pressure to do better than 5th. I think Jones will be under a lot of pressure to finish top 2, if not to win it overall. Apart from that, a lot of golden honeyed words said about Scotland, and rightly so, because they've made great progress in the club game. But they still don't really deliver in this championship, and I think that Gregor will expect more of his team this year. And from a neutral's point of view, I hope they really deliver. I mean, Ireland, world number 2, they're going to go to the World Cup with a real good shot at winning a lot of things this year. But this year is about momentum. If you go back to last season, they had the most wonderful 2018. But where did it all start? It started in Paris. Last kick of the game, Johnny Sexton dropped goal from halfway line. He misses that drop goal. They don't win the Six Nations, they don't win the Triple Crown, they don't win the Championship, and they probably don't go and beat New Zealand in the autumn. So all about momentum in this Championship, which is why it's such an exciting, appetising potential for us all.